So what made me flip is when I reached the point, I said, okay, this is 5% faster. Let's go small, right? Or 10%. I'm not talking about, hey, I'm 10x engineer now. But I'm faster. I finish something faster with than without it.
This is DevOps Paradox, episode number 309, using AI agents in daily development tasks. Welcome to DevOps Paradox. This is a podcast about random stuff in which we, Darin and Viktor, pretend we know what we're talking about. Most of the time, we mask our ignorance by putting the word DevOps everywhere we can and mix it with random buzzwords like Kubernetes, serverless, CI/CD, team productivity, islands of happiness, and other fancy expressions that make us sound like we know what we're doing. Occasionally, we invite guests who do know something, but we do not do that often since they might make us look incompetent. The truth is out there, and there is no way we are going to find it. P.S. It's Darin reading this text and feeling embarrassed that Viktor made me do it. Here are your hosts, Darin Pope and Viktor Farsic. So here we are. It's July of 2025. If you've paid any attention, you know my life has been turned upside down this year. And we're starting to record some new episodes. And I figured, you know what? When I left, all this stuff was going, Viktor was still, what is AI about? And I return, and all of a sudden, this is the only thing he's doing.
Yes. I wasn't what is AI about. I was, why the heck would anybody use this?
Right. And that's what we're going to sort of delve into over these next 4, 5, 6 episodes that are just me and Viktor. Now, typically, me and Viktor are every other episode from a guest. So it won't be back to back to back. So you'll get to see those or hear those as they come out. But this first one, I want to rewind back to January, February, again, before my world turned upside down. And go back to that point. We had GitHub Copilot. We had a handful of other things. We had Windsurf. I've lost track of everything that was out there, Cursor. But it just seemed like a bunch of toys. Am I wrong in that thinking?
That was either before or just when agents started being a thing. Back at that time, you could, if I remember, I might be now missing it for a month or two, right? But if you go Copilot, you could chat and you could edit. You couldn't run it in agent mode where it just go crazy. Oh, let me check the files on your file system. Let me execute this command. Let me go and check what's happening in your GitHub. Oh, blah, blah, da, 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 da. And then after 5,000 things it did, it says, I should change this file. The period you're talking about is before agents or when they were just starting.
Right. And again, that basically I've been out since end of February. Here it is. We're recording this on July 1st. So that's not that long. March, April, May, June. 4 months.
No. It's nothing in calendar days. It's everything in the speed of how fast things are moving right now.
But are they moving in the right direction? Let me set this up here a little bit too. I just saw yesterday, I believe it was June 30th or June 29th, 2025. Gartner put out a report saying that 40% of agentic AI projects are going to be canceled by 2027.
Yeah, and there should be. I think that more should be canceled, yes.
Okay. Well, it said at least 40%, if I remember correctly. If I remember, I'll put the link to that news release out in the show notes. But again, that's agentic AI, but let's scope it. What we're going to be talking about is just what we do, development or that kind of thing.
Let me just quickly comment on what you just said about Gartner or whomever it was. What is happening right now, actually, what happened a while ago is that companies were investing heavily in models, and then they realized that that's a fool's errand, right? That they are never going to, that most of them are never going to reach even part of capability of existing models. And then they said, okay, so I'm not going to build my own model. I'm going to use Anthropic. I'm going to use OpenAI. I'm going to use Grok or whatever. And then if you go back in time, I'm pretty sure that there were similar news like a year ago that how actually the investment in models is dropping within enterprises. Now, what is happening with that report is that companies are realizing the same thing for agents. Oh, agents appeared. I should build my own agent. Excellent. And then you face reality, and reality is that you're likely, let's say that it's agent for coding, you're likely not going to build as capable agent as Claude Code. And then the investment in agents drops. But that does not mean that the investment within enterprises in AI in general is dropping. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I agree with that. But for our conversation, I'm just trying to step back into the world. And again, my world upside down. And now I'm stepping back into it. And it's like, who am I here with? It's like everything has changed in 4 months, 4 calendar months.
Yes.
And it feels like I am completely lost. I mean, I knew some of the things before. It's sort of like when you step away from something. Like, let's do this. You and I today in 2025 are not DBAs, correct? Unless you've got something going on the slide I don't know about.
I'm not DBA. I know about databases, but I cannot call myself expert DBA. No.
Right. So when we think about running SQL, it's like, oh, we can do the basic SQL stuff. You'll never forget your first select count star, right? You'll just always remember that.
Yes.
And you'll remember your group bys.
Yes.
But now if we step back in, it's like, I don't even have to write that anymore. Well, it's like when ORM showed up, or like Hibernate, or some of the other ones. I didn't have to write anything anymore. It just automatically created it all for me. That's where I feel like I'm at right now. Is like, okay, I was used to writing SQL, putting it in my code, and then all of a sudden an ORM showed up, and I don't have to write that stuff anymore. That's where I feel like we're at in the AI world.
Yes, you don't have to write anything. But depending on what you're doing, the level of commitment you need to put on checking what is written varies.
Okay, stop. That's where I want to go because I'm trying to learn this. I'm trying to get back up to speed.
Yes.
This is much for everybody else that's listening. Victor and I are basically having a conversation right now because I'm really trying to get my head around what's happening in the world. What does that level of commitment look like? Because I've seen some of the prompts that you've written, and I'm going, how did he have so much time to write that? I don't understand. I mean, what is your thought process? What made you, actually, we'll start with this question first. What made you flip while I was out from this is a toy to I can't imagine my job without doing this?
What made me flip is when I reached the point where I actually save more time than lose with AI. Now, many people will tell you, hey, you have those stories in blog posts and videos from a year ago or 2 years ago. Oh, this is now 100x engineer, right? I can build a Tetris-like app in 10 minutes. That was never a real world. That's why I was negative. In the past, I had to spend more time with AI than without AI when working on an existing app that has certain complexity, that you cannot just decide to change the framework for testing. You cannot make random decisions. You need to follow the rules of that application. And you need to figure out what's in hundreds of thousands or millions of lines of code, right? Within that context, until, let's say, beginning of this year, I would spend more time with AI than without. And then things changed. It improved. So what made me flip is when I reached the point I said, okay, this is 5% faster. Let's go small, right? Or 10%. I'm not talking about, hey, I'm 10x engineer now. But I'm faster. I finish something faster with than without it. And that's the same rule that applies to anything else, right? Give me an IDE, new IDE. If I'm faster with that IDE, I'm going to switch from whatever I'm using, right? That's how it works.
But you're not using an IDE, except when you are.
Oh, that's now a special story.
Okay, let's hear the story.
I used VS Code with Copilot. That was the mistake that held me away from AI. Let's start with that. It's not good. It's getting better, but it's not good. It's not the choice, right? Cursor, amazing. You're more productive with it. But it still makes a bunch of mistakes. And then I discovered Claude Code, which is terminal-based. And it's not a pleasant experience, right? Because, there are things in IDE that simply make your life easier. How you see the code, how you see the diffs for changes. There's a bunch of things that most of us like about IDE as opposed to writing in, let's say, Vim, right? But then back and forth between Cursor and Claude Code, and coming to today, I'm completely in Claude Code. It's so much better as an agent. And that just proves the importance of agents, just to be clear, right? That I'm willing to remove all the benefits of using IDE because terminal-based agent happens to be so much better, right? In results. So the better results outweigh the benefits of IDE. So I'm now fully in Claude Code. I'm not in Cursor. I'm not in VS Code or any of those things. Terminal-based. And not because I'm a terminal guy. I mean, I'm a terminal guy for operations, but not for code. I never liked the idea of coding. But it's just so much better. Now comes the important part. In my opinion, Claude Code, terminal-based agent, significantly better than Cursor, agent inside of an IDE, which is fork of VS Code, right? Both of them are using exactly the same model. Both of them, in my case, are using Sonnet 4. And that means that actually the agent itself matters a lot, right? If models are the same and results are different, and the only difference is actually different agent, then actually that's almost like a proof that actually there are differences between agents. It's not kind of, which model is better?
Right, but even if you've got two different front ends, for lack of a better term, going to the same back end, we already know that models are non-deterministic. It doesn't matter if you're using Cursor and Claude Code or VS Code, whatever, it doesn't matter, because I would expect the answers to come back differently. But what you're telling me is I should expect the answers to come back the same. Is that true, or am I misreading?
No. The answers are going to differ, right?
They're going to differ.
Also,
yeah.
Yes. But the quality of answers differs from one agent to another. How it collects code, how it keeps context, and so on and so forth. And one of the big differences is the price. First, design of the agent, but also the price, because Claude Code just eats your tokens like crazy, right? Cursor works on subscription. I think it's $20 a month or something like that, right? Eventually, it will give you slow requests, but it's a one-time subscription. Now, Cursor has all the interest to compact that context all the time, right? To ensure that as little is sent to the model as possible. So imagine that it went through 1,000 lines of code. There is few thousand lines of text that you were talking with it, and so on and so forth. Claude Code will send all of it to Sonnet, Anthropic model, while Cursor is going to compact it as much as possible so that the amount sent there, which translates to tokens, is smaller. That's not the only difference. I mean, simply Claude Code agent itself is better, but that's one of the differences as well.
So let's rewind for just a second. You're throwing around the word agent like I really completely understand it. Now, in other contexts, agent makes total sense. But the way you're using it right now is confusing me. And I don't know if it's confusing anybody else that's listening. So what do you mean by agent in the context of Claude Code and Cursor? I mean, I'm sort of getting lost now.
So if you take us as analogy, LLMs, models would be brain, right? They contain information. You ask it and you get a question. Agents are doing stuff. They're like arms or legs, right? Hey, you want to check this? You want to fix a failed test. And I give it information about the failure, right? Or not issue in GitHub, right? I give it information. So what does it do? It combines communication with the LLM. Hey, so what do I do with this? And LLM tells it, oh, well, check the code, right? Find the instances of that method. Excellent. And then the agent goes through the code, finds that all the information it needs, maybe lists all the files in a directory, maybe goes to GitHub to get that issue in the first place, maybe checks the commits, right? It performs operations, primarily operations, and significant part of those operations is generating context that is sent to LLM. And then it says to LLM, hey, this is the issue, this is the code that matters for that issue, this is the file system, this is that, tell me what to do next. Think of it as something that performs operations. And it's synchronized with models. Basically, models provide the information it might need.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's just a different tool that I'm using.
Yeah.
And I'm not using tool in the AI phrasing or this whole agentic thing. I'm just saying a hammer or a screwdriver or something.
Essentially, you have three important parts. Model, that's where information of the whole planet and whole history of the planet is located. You have agents that can perform operations, right? Whatever those operations, gathering data, doing something, whatever that is. Go to my Gmail, right? And there is a third component, which is called MCP, or Model Context Protocol, which can provide interface to something. Think of it like APIs designed for agents. Let's say that I have two options. Let's say that I want to, hey, tell me what are all the issues I have in this project, right? Option number one is agent, by consulting a model, can find out, oh, okay, so I should execute some git command and gh commands. And I do that, I execute gh, get the issues, whatever, and I give it to you, right? Another option is you have MCP that is protocol designed for agents sitting between you and GitHub, and then agent exactly knows, because each of those MCPs expose what they call tools, like there is a tool get issue, right? There is a tool this, there is a tool that, and uses that as an interface to talk to, usually to an API. Now, in case of GitHub, that's a silly example because agents are more than capable of using CLI, but now let's say that it's Slack. How do I post a message on Slack? I mean, API, nobody knows what API of Slack is. CLI, I don't have a Slack CLI on my laptop, and probably you don't have it either. I don't know even whether it exists. So how does an agent, equipped with intelligence from models, talk to Slack? Well, MCP, protocol designed precisely for that. API for agents.
For Slack, you could use curl, but you'd have to know how to send it and all the other things. So
yeah, eventually it would go through the whole internet to find the curl examples. Eventually it would do it, right? But this is, no. Actually, there are those 5 tools, like read a message, post a message, get the whole thread, whatever the tools are. They call it tools. Think of them as API endpoints, and it does it immediately.
So an MCP server basically speeds up our accessibility for things that cannot be quickly found in the model, or maybe they don't exist today. Like you were saying, yes. The GH CLI exists today. So there's a high probability that the GH CLI might be able to do everything, and you don't need an MCP server to do stuff with GitHub.
Yeah, I rarely use GitHub MCP, but I do use other MCPs that are not so easily available. I mean, for destinations that are not so easily available.
Right. So there are use cases potentially where you would use the GitHub MCP, but it's only because the CLI doesn't cover that use case.
Oh, that's a special now story. Agents tend to have a limitation how many MCP tools they can load. Anything between 40 and 100. Above 100, they start struggling seriously, right? And then one MCP can be, let's say for Slack can be, and I don't use Slack MCP, but so I'm half inventing here. Let's say it has 20 tools, like post something, read something, right? So you can easily reach that limit of how many MCPs you can connect to one agent. And then I prefer to, if I need to kick something out, let me kick GitHub agent out, right? So I would probably use GitHub MCP if I have no other MCPs in that project or for that agent, but as soon as I start reaching those limits, that's the first one to go out, simply because the agent can do stuff with Git, with CLI.
That seems okay. We can go down the rabbit hole here, and we'll probably go a little bit longer. Why do we have problems when we're crossing that 40 to 100 or whatever magical thing is? It seems like I'm just defining a list of servers to integrate with. Why is it capping out?
It's for performance reasons, because it needs to keep all that in memory, right? When it starts, it loads all MCPs. There are descriptions. There is a bunch of information provided by each of those MCPs, right? That's why it's not kind of a hard limit, 100 exactly, or 40, right? It really depends on how much information should be loaded and kept in memory for all those MCPs, right? And also, memory is context, and context tends to go out and get compacted or removed, and context management is actually the real challenge over there.
That being said, if I was running on a low power, call it 8 gig machine, because that's low power today, I might be able to load in X number of MCP servers, just using
Probably.
X. But then if I had a 128 gig machine with a higher number of cores and a more beefy machine, I could get to X plus Y number of MCP servers loaded in, just because I've got more capacity, more RAM, more CPU, more whatever is necessary for that MCP server to actually operate.
Whatever that something is, yes.
Okay.
But in any case, you will reach, you will easily, if you start doing AI, I guarantee you will reach the limit of MCPs in no time.
But then wouldn't I can I have multiple instances of Claude Code running?
Yes.
Because it's just an agent, right? So I could have one instance of Claude Code running that is doing GitHub, whatever else. I could have another agent that's dealing with, I'm just thinking about this SDLC, right? I'd have an agent that sort of covers it. Am I going too far?
Now we're coming to a special conversation, and that's, are we talking about agents that are disconnected? Let's say you have 2 terminal tabs. Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about connected agents?
Okay, at the moment I'm talking about disconnected agents.
Yeah, then you will have a problem with context, right? Because, you do something in one agent and then you want to do something in some other, but that other has no idea what you just did there.
Right. And that's fair. Okay, that makes sense.
Right, that would be like 2 different people doing different types of tasks without talking to each other. But all within the same project, right?
Right. Same project. From a meta level, not meta Facebook, but a meta level, it's all one project, but I've got 2 standalone people. I guess it would be putting it in the physical world. I've got a guy working in an office in Seattle and a guy working in an office in Miami.
And one of them is reviewing your PRs and another one is pushing those PRs, but the one reviewing PRs never finds out when you push a PR.
Right. Okay. So that is a fair analogy in that case. I thought computers were supposed to make our lives easier, not harder.
Oh, you want a story that happened right today that illustrates? Sure. Okay, so let's say you work on a project, you start a new project, and you work on it for, 4 weeks, a month, heavily, every day, 8 hours a day. You go like crazy. And then you discover that you're on a wrong path. It's a wrong design. It happens sometimes, right? What do? Do you throw it all to trash and start over? Or do you try to fix that design knowing that it will likely cause even more suffering in the future, right? Because fixing a wrong design is a challenging thing, right? What do?
More than likely, I'll end up in the latter. I'll just try to fix it. Because it's sunk cost fallacy. I've already spent all this time. I can't throw it all away.
Yeah, everybody does. I mean, I'm not giving up a month of heavy work every single day for a whole day. But I'm going to end up in a worse place, probably, right? Now, that happened to me today I'm in a third iteration of something I'm working on, right? Third iteration meaning that for a third time I started from scratch because I was not going in a direction that I really think I should be going. I discovered that over time. Now the difference is that when I said earlier 1 month of work, that's what I'm estimating that it would take me. And in reality, it took me probably 2 days of work, 3 days of work before throwing it to trash. Right? If that's not a help, I don't know what it is. And on top of that, you throw something to trash. You want to start over, but then you need to struggle with your internal memory, kind of like, okay, what did I learn from this, right? Kind of like, how should I... You're not documenting first month of development of a new project. That's not your primary focus. Nobody is, right? But this is, okay, after 2 or 3 days, this is not going where I want it. Document everything we did, all the conversations we did, everything that happened, create a lessons learned document, throw it to trash. Let's talk about it again.
With the new context being what we learned.
Yeah. Kind of everything, current design, current implementation, everything about the project as it is right now, all the conversations that led us to mutual conclusion that this is not it, right? Document that as well, and so on and so forth. And then, literally, and I'm not joking, delete all the code. We're starting over. I could never do that after a month of work. I mean, I could do it, but I would never make myself do it.
This is where we're going to stop this episode because we'll pick up from this point. Because I want to know a little bit more about, honestly, all the details, but I want to understand that and understand the tooling. We can't use the word tools anymore as a generic term because a tool means something now. I want to understand what are those things? How do we think about that? Because if we started out with what we thought was a good requirements document and we went down the path and we found out it wasn't good, then what is our step-by-step that we got to do? So I think that's what we'll do in the next episode. Did you have anything else to say to sort of wrap this one up? So I agree with you. There's a 0% chance if I worked on something for a month that I'm going to completely throw it away and start all over again.
But you should.
But you should.
You must have had it at least once in your life.
Oh, yeah. More than once.
No.
More than once. But a lot of times that choice was not mine to make. And that's the hard part. It's like, we really should ditch this, and other things come in and say, nope, we have to keep going because fill in the blank.
Yeah, we don't have another month for you to discover that it might not work again.
That's where we'll pick up the next episode. So if you're listening to this and you're just starting to get into the AI thing, maybe you're like me and you were just saying, you know what, I'm going to let this just keep going. I've seen this story play out numbers of times in my career. I'm just going to let it play out. I think I have to get on the train now. I don't know that I needed to be on the train much before now. What do you think about that, Viktor?
Let's put it this way. Let's say that there are no future advancements. We will never be better than we are right now, which is ridiculous thought. But let's say that everybody should still adopt it.
With that in mind, head over to the Slack workspace, look for episode number 309, and leave your comments there. We hope this episode was helpful to you. If you want to discuss it or ask a question, please reach out to us. Our contact information and a link to the Slack workspace are at devopsparadox.com/contact. If you subscribe through Apple Podcast, be sure to leave us a review there. That helps other people discover this podcast. Go sign up right now at devopsparadox.com to receive an email whenever we drop the latest episode. Thank you for listening to DevOps Paradox.